Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to solve a 4x4 Rubik's Cube. So, if you don't know how to solve a 3x3, I'd like it if you learn how to solve a 3x3 first before you go to 4x4. Because if you don't know how to solve a 3x3, the 4x4 is going to be really confusing and really hard. But I'm going to just assume that you do know how to solve a 3x3. And so I'm going to show you how to solve a 4x4. So first, let's scramble it up. That looks pretty scrambled. Okay, so the first step is you want to solve the centers inside all these, and if you've never solved a 4x4 or a 5x5, this may be unfamiliar to you. But first we want to start with the white center. We want to find the side that's the most completed. So this side has the most whites in it. It has 2. These two both have 1. So how are we going to get these in here? Well, if we move this up here, it takes that one out. So you don't want to do that. Instead, we want to turn this bottom layer to just this, like, down middle layer. Bring this piece down. Put it in here. And bring it back up. And then for the last piece, which you have something like this, turn this to the right side. Turn it away. Move this piece down. Put it back. And move it back up, and that solves the white center. Next is the yellow center, and if you get something like this, if you move this piece up, you would destroy the white center. So you can't actually do that. And if you move this piece away and move it down, put it over here, that destroys the white center. So you cannot actually solve it the same way as you solve the white side. Instead, you're going to move this piece up into here, turn the top once, and move it back down. And then when you get something like this, you move it up to here, turn the top, and move it back down. That solved the first 2 centers. The next is, you can actually pick any color center, but for this one, I'm going to pick orange because that's the most completed. This would be pretty simple. You just turn this and put it in here. But this piece is a little bit harder. So do the same thing as you do with the yellow center, only you're going to have to move it twice. So move the left side twice. Turn the top once. Move the left side back twice. And that solves the orange center. Next, if you know the color scheme, you put the white on the bottom and you have orange. After that is blue. So we're gonna solve the blue center next. And one important thing to remember is if you put the centers together in the wrong way, if the color scheme is wrong, you cannot solve the 4x4. You have to fix the centers. So when you're just starting to learn how to solve a 4x4, it's really easy to make that mistake. So be prepared for if that happens. I'll show you what to do at the end of solving this if that happens. But I'm just going to assume that it didn't happen and show you how to solve the blue center. So you have these 2 up here. These 2 are down here. It looks like it'd be hard to get them up there. What we're going to do is we're going to move these 2 lefts up here to connect that. But that breaks the orange. So we're going to turn the top. Move these 2 down. And now we're going to move the 2 rights up. Flip the top. And move the rights back down. And then we get this shape right here. So if we get that, we're going to turn the front, move the left side up, turn the top, left back down. That solves the blue center. The next center is going to be the red center, because you have blue, and then here's red. And one thing is that when you're solving the 4x4, the centers are not going to change unless you move these around. So you have to be careful moving these around. So now I'm going to show you how to solve the last two centers right here. It looks like we both have like these shapes with 3 solved but 1 missing. If we do that, you do just exactly what you did with these 2 and these 2. You move the left side up, turn the top left side back down, and one important thing to remember while you're doing that is you want to have this piece facing these 2 solved sides with the non-solved piece on the bottom right. And that's one thing you want to do. So do the algorithm to, and that solves the, so if you do this algorithm, it's gonna be, if you know the, if you know what like the letters mean for the algorithms on a 3x3, then it's gonna be L, U, L, or it's gonna be L prime, U, L. And one thing to remember on a 4x4 is that you have R, U, L, F, D, and B. But you're gonna also have RW, which means 2 layers, UW, LW, FW. W stands for wide, so like 2 layers is what it is. The next step is after we solve the centers, we want to make sure all the centers are in the right place. If you don't know the color scheme, look at a 3x3 and just check the centers. So we have orange, blue, red, and green. That looks about right. The next step is to solve the edges, and this might be really unfamiliar with you because if you have never solved a 4x4 or a 5x5 or anywhere over a 3x3, this is going to be the hardest step for you. And actually, when I was learning how to solve this, it actually took me 18 hours to get this. But I'm going to show you how to do it anyway. So we're going to make something like this, like where these 2 edges, they're the same colors and they're lined up correctly. We have these 2 are lined up correctly, but they're on facing each other. We want this piece up here to where we can move it over here. How we're going to do that is we're going to do this algorithm. And you want to memorize the algorithm to solve the edges. What this does is it flips these edges around, so it'd switch these 2. So like this piece would be here, and this piece would be here. So the algorithm is R, U, R prime, F, R prime, F prime, R. And that flips these 2 around. So now how we're going to connect it to here, this part might be a little bit harder, but we're going to slice it over here to where these 2 match. We're going to bring it up, and we're going to put it in the way of that piece right here. So bring it up, turn the top, and if we bring it back down, we have 2 edges solved. And then we just put these back, so we don't mess up the centers. It's really easy to accidentally mess up the centers on this part, so you gotta be careful. Now, we want to switch these 2 around so we can put these over here. We're gonna do R, U, R prime, F, R prime, F prime, R. And that switches these 2 around. Now, we pair these together, knock this piece out of the way, and just replace it with this piece. And then we always want to move this back, because if we don't, it breaks the centers. So when we put this back, we have 3 solved on there. And then we put the centers back together with only 1 move. Now, next is these two. Need to be facing diagonal from each other so we can put them up here. But if they're not, we're gonna do the algorithm to fix those. Move them over to pair them up. And then put them up here. And then now, this part might be a little bit harder. Because if you get something like there's no 2 of each edge piece on one side, you're gonna have to do something. Okay, so first you can pick any color you want, but I'm gonna pick this blue and yellow piece just for an example. So there's another blue and yellow, so we're gonna turn it over here to where it's facing the side we want, and then we want to bring the right side up, turn it, and bring the right side down, and that puts it where we need it to be. Next, we flip it with the algorithm. I'll repeat it again. It's R, U, R prime, F, R prime, F prime, R. And then we pair these two together. And since there's no solved edge up here, it doesn't matter where we put it. But one thing to remember is that when we replace it, don't replace it with any random edge, because we want to replace it with one of these. If you don't have any of these colors on here, it doesn't matter. But if you do, like a red and white or an orange and yellow, then you want to replace it. There's an orange and yellow right here, and there's a red and white right here. We're going to turn it, bring this side up, and then turn it to where the left side is facing the red and white piece. So when we bring it back down, it matches these two together. Now we put the centers back, flip these two around, pair them together, push that piece out of the way, turn it, and bring it back down. And one important thing to remember when you're doing this is you really don't ever have to take these pieces off of the yellow side. When you bring it one piece up, like if you bring the right side or the left side up, you always want to remember to put it down before you put the centers back together. Because if you make that mistake, you have to start all over. So next we're gonna do these two, which are facing the same. We're gonna flip them. And you don't always have to flip them, just if these two are facing directly across from each other, you want to do that. Now we pair them together. Knock this piece out of the way. Turn the top. Bring this piece back down. And then put the centers back together. Now there's one more. Pair them up. Bring it up at the top and then put it back. Now put the centers back. Now when you get to the last 4 centers, you don't want to put them up here, because then you'll also break another edge. So how to do that is, okay, so you see this piece right here. We have this piece right here. We're just going to flip these over. And this is the only time when you actually want them facing directly across from each other. Because if you do that, you just slice it over where they're not facing across from each other. Do the algorithm. Slice it back. And that pairs these two up together. Now next for the last 2 centers. This might be the hardest part, but so what we're gonna do is, if they're not facing directly across from each other, then we have to flip them before we slice them. But if they are, then we just slice it over so that when we flip it, when we flip this piece goes up here, and then we slice it back, it connects onto here. So that these two are paired together. So I'll show you. I'm gonna watch this piece as I flip it. It puts it up here. And so when I put these centers back, it attaches these two together. And now we have solved all the edges. Next, and this is the easiest part, is you just solve it like a 3x3. If you don't know how to solve a 3x3, then go back and watch my 3x3 tutorial I made. But if you do know how to solve a 3x3, then this is probably the easiest part. I'm just gonna skip to the next hard part. So yeah, you build the white cross. I'll go through a little bit of the steps. And then you solve the first layer. Like that. And then you solve the middle layer. I'm actually going through the beginner method just to make it easier. So you have the middle layer solved. And then okay. So when you get something like this, maybe you do the FURURF method on a 3x3, or you do the FRURUF, one of those. But if you get something like this where you almost have the cross, but one edge is just flipped, these two need to be turned over. This is called OLL parity, and it requires a parity algorithm for the 4x4. You cannot just do the same 3x3 algorithm because it doesn't work. I'll show you what it does. It just does the same thing. So you actually can't do that. Instead, you're gonna have to memorize this algorithm. It's a really long algorithm and it requires 15 moves. So I want you to just maybe have some time to practice on this algorithm. Maybe play this scene a few times while I go through the moves. And all the R and L moves are gonna be 2. And then all the F and U moves are gonna just be 1. Okay, so it's gonna be R prime U2, L F2, L prime F2, R2 U2, R U2, R prime U2, F2, R2, F2. And that solves the yellow cross. So you know what to do. If you've solved the 3x3, you probably know what to do with the yellow cross. So I'm gonna go through to the next hard step. Okay, now if you get something like this, where this piece is supposed to be over here, but this piece is not the red piece, so instead this piece needs to be here. And if these two are both directly apart, or these two are both directly apart, you just solve that like a 3x3. But if you get something like the orange needs to be over here, but the piece where the orange piece needs to be is a green piece, which needs to be here, you have to do the PLL parity algorithm to swap these pieces where you need to go. So most of these are double moves, so it's gonna be like double U2, double R2, U2, and then just this layer, so 2R2, just this layer, U2, double R2, double U2. And that puts the pieces in the right place. So now you know what to do if you get one solved edge. This is exactly like a 3x3, so you're gonna do R, U prime, R, U, R, U, R, U prime, R prime, U prime, R2. And we've solved the 4x4.